There was a time when she used to argue with you, raise her voice, challenge your words, ask questions you didn't want to answer, cry when you pulled away, fight for the moments that mattered, and you thought it was too much. You'd sit in silence while she ranted, thinking she was dramatic, overly emotional, or just exhausting to deal with. You wanted peace. You wanted calm. You told yourself if she would just stop overreacting, everything would be fine. And then, one day, she did. The arguments stopped. The questions stopped. The emotions faded. She stopped checking where you were. She stopped reacting to the things that used to ignite her. And for a moment, you thought, finally, we're good. But you didn't realize that this wasn't peace, that was withdrawal. This wasn't her becoming easier to love. It was her quietly falling out of love. Because the truth is, people only fight for things they still care about. They only raise their voices when they still want to be heard. Okay? They only argue when they still believe there's something worth saving. And when she stopped, okay, that wasn't a sign things were better. It was a sign she was tired. Not calm, not healed, just tired. Tired of repeating herself. Tired of feeling alone in her own relationship. Tired of hoping you'd finally listen without her having to beg for attention. Tired of talking to someone who always said, you're overthinking it. So she went quiet, not because she had nothing to say, but because she knew it wouldn't matter anymore. She'd already said it all. Maybe 10 times, maybe 100. And when you didn't hear her, when you didn't change, when you made her feel like she was the problem for having needs, she stopped trying. She stopped asking. She stopped reminding you of the little things. She stopped reaching for you in bed. She stopped looking at you like you were home. And that's when the damage happened, not in the fights, but in the stillness that followed. That's the moment most men don't notice, 'cause we're taught that silence is peace, that a woman who doesn't challenge us is easy to love, that less emotion means less chaos. But real love isn't quiet like that. Real love is expressive. Real love is involved. God, real love doesn't ignore the cracks just to keep the walls from falling down. So when she stopped arguing, what you thought was relief was actually the beginning of the end. Her heart was checking out, while her body stayed behind out of habit, out of guilt, out of hope that maybe you'd feel the emptiness she no longer knew how to describe. And the worst part, you didn't notice. You mistook her silence for comfort. You mistook her distance for maturity. You thought she was just growing up, getting better at letting things go. But in truth, she was letting you go, quietly, gracefully, emotionally. And by the time you realized something was wrong, she'd already made peace with losing you, because she didn't want to fight anymore. Not because the fight wasn't worth it, okay? Because she finally realized she was the only one fighting. And maybe it didn't hit you right away. Maybe you went a few more days thinking everything was just fine. She wasn't complaining. She wasn't crying. She wasn't frustrated anymore. She was just quiet. You mistook her silence for peace. Because you've never been taught that silence can also be surrender. But you started noticing the difference in the smallest ways. How her laugh didn't come as easily. How her phone seemed to hold more of her attention than you did. How she stopped asking where you were going or when you'd be back. Not because she trusted you, but because she stopped seeing herself as part of your world. And when you reached for her, she still let you, but it felt different, didn't it? The way she kissed you without really kissing you. The way she lay next to you, but her body faced the other direction. The way her words became automatic responses, like she was reading from a script she no longer cared to rewrite. You started to feel her absence while she was still physically there. And it confused you, because you didn't know what changed. It didn't TC the breaking point. Because there wasn't T1, there was just the accumulation of 1,000 tiny moments where she felt unheard, unchosen, and emotionally abandoned. You didn't realize she'd stopped arguing, because in your mind, no argument meant no problem. But to her, no argument meant no hope. Because when a woman stops arguing, it means she's stopped trying to make you understand her. It means she's accepted the emotional gap between you as permanent. It means she's conserving her energy, not for you, but for herself. And the tragic part, you still think everything can be fixed with one good conversation, one thoughtful gesture, one spontaneous I love you. But it's not that simple anymore, okay? Not when the disconnect has hardened into distance. Not when she's already rewritten the story of you and stopped seeing herself in the ending. By the time most men realize what the silence really meant, it's too late. She's not angry. She's not bitter. She's just done, okay? And there is nothing louder than the silence of a woman who used to fight to be heard and now only fights to protect her peace. You can feel it, can't you? That invisible space between her words. That coldness in her kindness. That absence in her presence. And you're starting to panic, not outwardly, not dramatically, but deep down, that place where your gut twists because something feels off. You try harder, you show up more, you say all the right things. She's already a step ahead, already emotionally detached. She's still smiling at your efforts, but she's already grieving the version of herself that used to care this much. And that's what hurts the most. You're just now starting to love her the way she needed all along, but she's already moved past needing it. 'Cause love that isn't nourished dies slowly, quietly, without announcement. And while you were waiting for signs of a storm, she was slipping out the side door, leaving behind only echoes of the woman who once begged you to listen. And now it's hitting you. Not like a sharp blow, not like a single explosion. No. This kind of realization comes slow, like fog rolling in at night. You start waking up earlier than usual, not because you're rested, but because something inside you won't let you sleep. You look at her lying next to you, and it feels familiar but distant, like watching someone you used to know through glass. You want to reach for her, but there's a hesitation now, a fear, not of rejection, but of confirming what you've already suspect, that whatever once connected you is no longer there. That no matter how gently you touch her now, it won't bring her back emotionally. Huh? And that realization doesn't just hurt, it dismantles you. Because for the first time, you see it clearly. You see all the times she tried to tell you what she needed. You remember all the nights she cried while you stayed silent. You recall every argument you shut down, every time you told her to just let it go. Every moment she begged you to see her, and you chose comfort over connection. And now you're the one searching for signs. You're rereading old messages. You're watching her smile and wondering if it's still meant for you. You're giving more, saying more, doing more, and it's not working. Because love, once neglected, becomes guarded. And no matter how sincere your effort is now, it feels late, desperate, like a man trying to build a home from ashes, ignoring the fire he started by not paying attention. That S, the part no one prepares you for, the moment when you finally understand what she was trying to save. And realize you didn't fight with her, you fought against her, not by raising your voice, but by lowering your presence. And now that she's calm, now that she's polite, now that she doesn't expect anything anymore, that's when the panic sets in. Because you realize she's not coming back to the version of love you once shared. She's not waiting anymore. She's not hoping anymore. And you're finally feeling the emptiness she's been carrying alone for months. And that guilt, that ache, it sits in your chest like a knot that won't come loose. You want to apologize. You want to undo time. But you can't apologize to someone who no longer needs your apology. You can't go back and be present in moments that have already passed. You can only sit with it. Sit with the knowing that her silence wasn't pissed, was distance. It was her way of coping with the love that made her feel alone. And now, as she gets quieter and you get louder, the roles have reversed. She's calm, not because everything's okay, but because she's already let go in places you're only just beginning to reach. That's the tragedy of emotional neglect. It doesn't break you in one moment. It breaks you slowly. And by the time you care enough to show up, the version of her who needed you is already gone. And this is where it ends, not with shouting, not with a grand exit, not even with a real goodbye. It ends in the quiet, in the kind of silence that doesn't ask questions anymore, and the kind of stillness that feels heavier than any storm. You sit with the weight of it, now the weight of everything unsaid, everything unheard, everything dismissed because it didn't feel urgent in the moment. You remember how she used to raise her voice, not to be dramatic, but to be seen. You remember how she used to fight, not because she wanted chaos, but because she believed there was still something worth fighting for. And now you understand. The arguments weren't the problem. They were the heartbeat. And when they stopped, the pulse of your relationship flatlined. But you didn't hear the silence for what it was. You mistook her quiet as healing, her stillness as peace. But now you see clearly. It was grief. It was her letting go. It was her mourning you before you were even gone. And what's left now is yours to hold. The regret, the recognition, the pain that doesn't scream but hums low in your chest like something broken you can quite repair. You want to do anything to fix it? But this isn't about fixing anymore. This is about facing yourself, about sitting in a reality that you didn't lose her overnight. You lost her little by little. In every moment, you chose comfort over connection, silence over presence, pride over vulnerability. And now, the only thing left to do is feel it. Not run, not numb, not distract. Sit in it. Sit in the ache. Sit in the truth. Because maybe, just maybe, if you really let yourself feel this, you won't make the same mistake again. Maybe the next time someone loves you loud, you'll listen before they go quiet. Maybe you'll learn to hear pain that doesn't always come wrapped in anger. Maybe you'll recognize that the ones who care the most often sound the loudest, not because they read dramatic, but because they're desperate to be chosen, to be valued, to be heard. And if that happens, if you carry this truth forward into the next chapter of your life, then maybe this wasn't the end of everything. Maybe this was the beginning of you waking up, because it's not about blaming yourself forever. It's not about hating her for leaving. It's about honoring what you've learned in the silence. It's about becoming the kind of man who doesn't wait until the arguing stops to start paying attention. It's about becoming emotionally present before the emotional vacancy sets in. Because love doesn't disappear in one moment. It slips away in all the moments you thought didn't matter. So now, you choose. You either repeat the story or you rise from it. You either mourn what's gone forever, or you become someone who never need to lose this way again. And that's how it ends. Not with a voice, not with your apology, but with the quiet vow to yourself. Never again will I ignore the sound of someone fighting to stay. 'Cause next time, you'll listen before it's silent.